Hey, thanks for tuning in. My name is Troy Singleton, and I'm one of the professors here in the automotive department at Sinclair College. Now, I get questions all the time. Hey, what are the things that I can do to make my vehicle last longer? So maybe you've purchased a new car or a used car you're excited about, and you're like, hey, I want this vehicle to last a really long time. Well, there's several easy things you can do, and then there's some more difficult things you can do. Some of the easy things, we could get as specific as your driving habits. So how do you drive? Do you accelerate hard? Do you brake hard? So things like that. How you go around corners, speed bumps, or pulling into parking lots. You could even be as specific as maybe you change your route to work or your school because there's potholes and speed bumps and bad areas in the road. More specific things, we could look at how the tires are. So the condition of your tires. We could look at the tire inflation, so making sure you're not driving on a tire that's low. We could think about rotating the tires. Kind of the rule of thumb is to rotate the tires every other oil change. You could look at that. As far as the tire inflation, we could go and look at what the manufacturer recommends on the car. A lot of vehicles have a tire pressure monitor, so you could look at that as well. As far as the engine itself, a few things you can kind of take note of. You can look at the fluid levels. So there's lots of fluids that are pretty easy to check. Like you could check the brake fluid, you could check the amount of antifreeze, you could check the oil, you could take a look at the air filter. Really what it comes down to is to maintenance. So if you talk to, let's say, an HVAC technician, if you ask him that same question, and he would probably tell you that, hey, why not check the furnace filter in your house? Or if you talk to a appliance technician, that individual would probably tell you, hey, keep your lint trap or your dryer trap or lint trap, keep that all cleaned out. So there's things like that you can do. Again, it all really comes down to maintenance. These vehicles are very complicated. There's a lot of stuff happening, but then again, at the same time, there's some little easy things that you could easily look at. Me, I like to check fluids no matter what time of year it is, no matter what. I check my fluids about every week. So I just make a habit on Saturday morning. I know when I get up, part of my routine is, hey, I'm gonna go kind of look at everything. I'm gonna check fluids just as a precaution or a maintenance thing, all right? Some of the other things we could look at, how about the body? Obviously keeping the body clean and the body washed, that's a good thing. They make certain chemicals you could put on your rubber seals, all the door seals and things like that. You could lubricate the locks and the hinges. So in the winter time, if you ever had that problem where the lock cylinder was froze, where you couldn't unlock your door with the key. The undercarriage is huge, especially in this area. So in the winter time, when they put lots of salt on the roads and other things to clear the roads from ice and snow, when you drive, all that gets sprayed underneath the vehicle. So probably a good idea to get all that cleaned off. So you could go through a car wash that has an underbody spray, keep that nice and clean. That's good for the body. As far as the interior, keeping it vacuumed and cleaned out and kind of picked up. If you get lots of dirt and mud and debris and dust and things like that, that tends to grind into the material, whether that's the seats, whether that's the carpet. And when you do that, that kind of accelerates the wear. As far as else in the interior, if you're sitting inside the vehicle and looking at the gauges in the dash, obviously you're looking for check engine lights or service vehicle soon lights. You don't want to ignore those things. Just like when you're driving, hey, that's a new noise. Well, hey, I don't remember it doing that, or hey, that kind of seemed funny. Okay, get those things checked out as soon as possible. Now, again, as far as your tires, making sure the tires are inflated to the proper pressure, you can actually look at the tire itself and it'll tell you what the cold pressure is. If you can't find that, there's also a sticker, the tire inflation placard. It's going to be inside the door jamb, maybe even on the inside of the door. Also with your tires, again, back to rotating them, kind of a rule of thumb is to rotate those every other oil change. And then one thing that I always do, I never turn the steering wheel if I'm sitting still. All right, that could actually wear the tires. So even if I'm backing out of a parking space, I try to go rolling first and then turn my steering wheel. Okay, so little things like that that can help the longevity of your tires. Okay. All right, so here we are inside the vehicle. Pay attention to the check engine light or any of the lights that are on the dash. This particular vehicle does have a, looks like a left rear tire that's low. We have a check engine light also, so don't let those things go. And then I mentioned the interior. You know, if you look at the floor mats and the carpet and things like that, if you keep those things swept up and clean, that mud and dirt doesn't act like sandpaper against those materials, so it's nice to keep those all clean. Thinking about the sun, you could put one of those covers that cover the windshield that kind of keep the dash out of the sun, keep things a little bit cooler. Obviously in the summertime, you can crack your windows to keep the heat from getting too bad on the inside. As far as I see the fuel gauge, one thing that I always think about with the fuel gauge, always buy gas at a gas station that has lots of volume, so lots of turnover, and also always try to keep my gas tank above 1/4 of a tank. All right, so that's going to kind of help for the longevity of the fuel pump, because a lot of vehicles actually depends on the system, but we actually use the fuel to keep the fuel pump cool. All right, so kind of a rule of thumb is right around 1/4 of a tank. And then as far as vehicle maintenance, you may have an owner's manual. It should be available for every vehicle, whether that's online or a disc or actually a paper manual, but they have miles listed, and they give you recommended services at those different miles. So on this particular vehicle, at we'll say 7,500 miles, they're wanting you to rotate the tires, perform the required services, check the oil level, oil life percentages, change oil in filter if needed. Then we could skip ahead all the way to, let's say 100,000 miles on this particular vehicle, and they want you to do the same thing. And then they also want you to replace the wiper blades and then replace the cabin air filter. So little things like that you can keep up with routine maintenance to make your vehicle last as long as possible. All right. Hey, thanks for watching our videos. Check out our other videos, and we'll see you next time.